How do I connect with my wife? She seems incredibly sensitive, or she's called herself highly sensitive. So, how do I connect with a highly sensitive woman who shuts down at times, seems to say that I don't understand her? And maybe in your mind, you've thought this, or maybe you've said these things out loud, right? Stop being so sensitive, or what's wrong now? You might find yourself saying. And she'll say things like, you don't listen, you don't care about me, maybe even more than other guys. If you've read stories on the forums, maybe you feel like your wife is even more sensitive than what you're reading about, whether she's explosive in her emotions or she shuts down. Often a woman who's highly sensitive will shut down and not know what to say, not know what she needs or wants. So that's what we're going to talk about here today on this live tribe call, how to connect with your highly sensitive wife. Now, we've been doing these calls since the beginning of the pandemic. Back then, we all got together, the coaches and myself, of course, got together and said, men all around the world are feeling alone. They're feeling isolated. So let's start doing these weekly calls to connect with them. No strings attached, to let them know how to move forward with their own lives, how to feel confident within your own self, no matter what's going on with her. And I've talked with men a lot lately about highly sensitive women. Is that a thing? My wife says she's highly sensitive and she found this designation, the HSP, highly sensitive person designation, and she seems to feel great about that, but doesn't really seem like anything's changing at home. Maybe she's learning more about herself, but what do I do about this? Yeah. So let's start with, I want you to punch a 1 into the chat if you feel like your wife is highly sensitive, or if she's said something around, you don't listen, you don't care about me. If you found yourself saying, stop being so sensitive, what's wrong now? Go ahead and punch a 1 into the chat so I can get an idea of who's heard these things before. Yeah, lots of 1s. Doug private messaged me. When she builds up, it explodes. When she builds up and explodes. Yeah. You don't understand me. Yeah. So today I'm going to go into what does highly sensitive look like? What I call my stoplight colors approach to conversation. I just started teaching it this way actually last week. I've been in private practice for years now, since 2016, worked with hundreds and hundreds of men, and I'm going to teach it a different way today than I ever have before. The stoplight colors approach to conversation that can help really overnight. So you can get a grasp, an idea of, all right, how do I approach this in a better way? And I want to hear your questions and your scenarios. So lots of 1s into the chat. Let's have you guys come in right away. So unmute yourself and come on in. What does it mean? What's highly sensitive mean to you? How have you seen these things before? Tell me a little bit about your situation. Unmute yourself. Come on in.
Well, this is Doug. Want me to
Yeah,
start,
Doug.
Jeff?
Yeah, go for it, Doug.
Well, I mean, my wife, basically will allow it to build up. And I don't know how it starts or what's sensitive to her, but it starts building up. It'll be something on the inside, and I can hear it by her comments. And then the things she pays attention to, if she goes out to Walmart, comes like Walmart or shopping, she's stressed out. And then it just starts to build and to build. And then she becomes sensitive on anything. I could be sitting on the couch, and I know it because I'm walking on eggshells and I don't want to say nothing. Even my son won't say nothing. And she gets build up, and then she just explodes. And it's a gun attack, it's a machine gun at me, and it's all these little things that I had no idea was even bothering her, and it just comes up. So I know emotionally some things are building up. The unfortunate thing is there were times where we would talk about all this and she's fine, and then lately, maybe 6 months or a year, she's shut in and won't share a lot of those things with me. And then she explodes.
Yeah,
And that's what
and
happened.
that sounds horrendous. Like you want connection, you want depth with her, but all you're seeing is an explosion. When is there an in between, Doug? When is there a time when you see that the explosion hasn't happened yet?
And it's going to happen.
That you expect it to happen, yes, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, I mean, it's just little things. My wife, she really she's sort of inactive. I mean, she doesn't really do a lot of things. In Florida, the heat puts her inside, she isolates herself, and but when she does things, I can just tell because she's not usually a complainer. I mean, she's usually pretty cool, but she starts to lose that. But I start to notice these little things that she's complaining about. And then it's, to me, the masculine part, I guess, that I bring, because I'm really open. My son and I are, I wouldn't say loud, but we talk. And so I think personally she's an introvert that's oversensitive. Her sensations pick everything up. She hears this, she smells that, and then it just starts to build and build and build. And I can tell because she's quieter, and then all of a sudden I have a gut feeling, an instinct that I know. And really, in anywhere, even at work, I can always tell when something's ready to blow up on me. And it's the same thing with my wife. I know something's going to happen. I was listening to you and Cynthia's message the other day, and I think the more I settle down and come to terms, because I'm separated, guys. My wife did an explosion and wanted me out the door, and I left. It's been 4 weeks, July 4th, not one word, not one text. My poor son's probably sitting in the middle of it going, what the hell is going on? But anyway, she exploded, and it built up and it built up, and I saw it coming. But there's no way out of it except just to go to relieve this. So I think she's just sensitive to a lot of things, and it builds up and builds up and builds up. And as guys, we're the ones that get attacked. So as I listened to that one of your talks, Cynthia made a lot of good comments about what a woman experiences towards the guy about this or that, and we're the ones that they take it out on, and we're the ones who know them the best. So
So
when
Doug,
when I
if I jump in, what are some of the things that Cynthia said that you really appreciated? So other guys that maybe weren't there.
well, there's a lot of things. The masculine part is just extreme, but when she goes into the emotional or the thinking of a woman, she was saying there was a couple things, but she was saying one thing that made a lot of sense to me, where one thing was when the masculine energy leaves, she's going to feel that, but she needs that. It was about space. I think you did a video on, our wives need space. But what I was thinking was, we're the ones who know our wives. When my wife, something's bothering her, I want to talk to her to help her alleviate that and get it off. And what's the sad thing is when they're not sharing it and they're building it up and building it up, and then bam, it explodes and it comes out of nowhere and it's another woman. It's like, I don't even know who the hell this woman is. But Cynthia has mentioned a lot of things of where that comes from, and the need, that eruption of so much on her mind and in her emotions, that she needs the space and for everything to get away, like that little water, that drop of water in a bucket, where you want to say, let me take that from you to help you. But it seems like her bucket is so full and she's going to dump it on you. And I got dumped on, and there was nothing I could do. Anyway.
Yeah, that's great. I think every single one of us can relate to what you're saying, Doug. Thanks for getting us started. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to circle around to that. Hey, Jeff, thanks for raising your hand. Come on in. Thanks, Doug. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And I guess men can probably be defined as highly sensitive people too, but generally speaking, I think men tend to lean more towards the thinking, analytical side of things versus women being driven by their feelings. At least that's been my experience. For example, I pulled out my old Myers-Briggs, and I'm really high on the thinking dimension, and I'm sure my wife is off the chart on the feelings dimension. So already that's kind of an uphill climb there. And in anticipation of the topic today, I actually pulled this book off her shelf,
There we go.
handbook, The Highly Sensitive People here. So I'm trying to read up on the subject. And it gives I think 22 questions here to help somebody determine whether they're a highly sensitive person. And one thing that really resonated with me in how I see her is that you could feel deeply hurt and find yourself closing off when criticized, judged, betrayed, cheated, or lied to. It takes a particularly long time for you to recover from these or you may even feel that you will never fully get over it. And that's the situation I feel like I'm in right now, where everything begins and ends with her feelings of the current situation. And since I'm having a really hard time understanding that, I tend to even mock it and gaslight it to an extent of how can you feel that? Can't you change your feelings with thoughts that drive those feelings? And I'm just kind of digging a hole for myself, where things are not getting better, they're getting worse. So I'm open to anyone's suggestions.
Yeah, well, that's why we're here, Jeff. So I'll ask you about yourself in a moment, but it's crazy that we learn that we have unconscious beliefs and our thinking drives our feelings and our emotions. Yeah. But attempting to bring that to a woman and teach her that no, there's really I see your face already, Jeff. It's the underlying beliefs. It's your thinking that's causing your feeling. Let's shift your thinking. They just want to stab you in the eye with a pencil. I mean, they don't want to hear that shit when they're in the middle of it, I would assume, is what your wife looks like, Jeff. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not the blow up kind of emotions, but it's just more of the withdrawal, the numbness. Just,
Yeah.
it just, I've never thought of myself as emotional, but I'm the one bringing all the emotion into the conversation, it seems like.
So say more about that. I'm curious. And you gaslighting her and using some of those terms and shaming her for it. Maybe tell us a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think it's just a kind of a dichotomy there, a fundamental misunderstanding that I just think of everything being logical and look at the big picture here and look at the glass half full. Why are you always looking at it half empty? Can't you change your script and the thoughts that would change those feelings towards me? But so I get very defensive about it because I feel so helpless that she's told me over and over again, I can't change her feelings. And for someone who likes to try to control and analyze a situation, it leaves me just grasping at straws of what I can even do at this point. And perhaps the best advice is just to just back off and not hover and give more space for her to sort through that on her own right now.
Well, that makes sense. And we're going to get into very much specifics today on what I'll suggest as far as talking and guidelines and framework for us as a man, right? And for you as a man, Jeff. But within your own self, I think I've seen your face before. I'm not sure how long you've been doing this work, but when you openly say like, yeah, I gaslighted her, you're taking responsibility for yourself, at least what that means to you. So where are you in your understanding of you're getting more emotional? It seems like you're pushing conversation in a logical way. What do you understand about your own self and maybe why you've done that?
I mean, I've been on a couple roundtables with you and getting the daily newsletters, but it's just making me much more self-aware about my communication style and coming at things from contempt, resentment, which I realize is one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, according to John Gottman. So I really need to be cautious of that. But for months now, I've been pushing the conversation. It just goes around and around in circles and usually ends with me in just utter frustration. So I think what I'm learning through my initial phase of going through this is just the importance of not asking questions, of really just being calm, reassured, trying to create that emotional safety where she can put everything she wants on the table and not gauge a really negative reaction from me.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. And what are you secretly hoping that happens or she tells you when you'd been pushing these conversations before?
What I'm looking for right now is just hope for her to just say, I don't have feelings for you now, but that could change in the future. Or, I ask her, what can I do? Which I know is probably not the best approach because she can't give me an answer of what I can do. She would probably say it's more her than me that has created the situation right now.
Sure, that makes sense. I'll ask something. It's a little bit esoteric, Jeff, and then I want to go over to Robert. Raise his hand here. maybe it's a rhetorical question, but like, where does hope come from? Hope comes from within us. We can decide how we want to view things. So asking her to give you hope is also asking her to validate you in a small way, right? It's asking her to take care of you in a way. I know you seem like you know this when I'm saying this out loud, but the hope really comes from within you. And she can't give you, even if she said, yes, there's hope, and then everything went right back to the way that it was, you wouldn't be happy with that, I would expect, right?
Yeah. So the most important thing I'm discovering is, like you preach from the mountaintops, is don't be dependent on an outcome right now. I've just got to work on myself, and if she comes back to me, great. If not, I've got to be making preparation for my next steps then.
Sure. I mean, we could talk about that, and it's easy for me to say, right? It's easy for us to say, yeah, just work on yourself. And it's the most gut wrenching thing ever. Like that's how I found this work. That's why you guys are here. And it brings up this greater question. I was actually thinking about this on the way home from the gym this morning, Jeff, this greater question of everything in life is temporary, whether it be for 1 minute or 100 years, or how long was the Roman Empire in power? Yeah. So everything is temporary, whether it's our relationship or our children's lives, or, the efforts that we put into the world. And that's a hell of a sobering consideration, one that I never thought about before this work. It's that existential philosophy, so to speak. Do we understand that death can be at any time? And if there was a meteor in the sky, hurtling toward us right now, it'd be easy to let all that stuff go and just give our wife a hug without attachment to anything, not asking her to fix anything, not trying to have sex or anything like that. It's easy to say when we're, feel like we're about to die. Well, what really changes in that moment? It's our perspective. It's our perspective on what we're trying to get from the other person and what we want from ourselves. So that's a long-winded way of saying this work to me really is about the recognition that everything in life is temporary. And once we can move past that and process that, then that's where our wife wants us to be. That's where a woman wants us to be. Yeah, that's a very grandiose way to talk about it, right, Jeff?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in. We'll get into more specifics. Yeah, Robert, please. Thanks, Jeff. That was great. Robert,
hey guys.
Hey, bud.
I'm kind of new here. It's my first Zoom call anyway. Been on the Facebook group and did some coaching and stuff.
Yeah, welcome, man.
But yeah, the topic of the highly sensitive woman, kind of, my wife's definitely told me that that's what she feels she is. And yeah, what you guys are describing has been my experience for the last, we've been married almost 11 years. Yeah, to me, it's like, it's just insecurity, right? Like maybe more, like a lot more insecurity than the average person, I guess.
That you have, or she does?
That she has, and I do too. But for my experiences with my wife has been like, it's been about kind of abandonment and rejection. So, basically the story I've been hearing my whole marriage has been like, why don't you want to spend time with me? Why don't you love me? Why don't you prioritize me? Because I would, I kind of just did my own thing, and maybe she'd make me feel bad about it, but I'd go and do things anyway, right? But there were things that were just like, wow, this is kind of over the top. Like I'd be like, I want to go to the hardware store for an hour, and she'd be crying and be like, no, you need to stay home, that kind of thing. And I, most of the time I'd just be, feel super guilty and like, what, I must be a bad person because I'm making her feel this way. And I just recently, started figuring this stuff out. It's not always about me. She's, being triggered easily by this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's where for me it was like, I have to be able to be okay with it, because like I'm just shaming myself all the time. Like I couldn't, it was hard to set boundaries with her. Like she would be upset by me setting boundaries or doing what I want to do. It was always like, oh, she feels not prioritized, not loved, not it's not what she expected, I guess, from me. So, and I get this, what Jeff was saying, how, or you guys were talking about how it's like, you wish she would see that, oh, it's, part of it's me, part of it's her insecurity and stuff, right? That brings us out, but she doesn't want to see that. And I guess we can suggest things, we can't make her realize that. Stuff she would say to me, she sometimes would be like, I wish you would just hold me and tell me it's okay, like not get defensive, not try to explain it away or minimize or anything. And like, I always found that super hard to do. Like, it's the last thing I want to do. Like, I just want to run away, right? So I don't know if that helps any of you
Yeah,
guys. Like,
that's awesome. That's awesome,
just
Robert.
like I have done it a couple times, and just like, what she's saying, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have to make sense. 5 minutes later, she's happy. She's telling me how, that how great things are. So it's, a lot of the time it doesn't make sense. But I mean, for me, I let it get to me for so long, and I think I built up so much resentment and stuff. Like, I'm at the point now where I just don't want to. I don't want to do it anymore. I just want to get out of it. And
I hear you, man.
and it's just gotten worse and worse, right? It started out being like, oh, why don't you want to go hang out with your friends instead of stay home with me? And now it's like, why don't you want me? Why don't you want to be with me anymore? And it's, I'm not sure where to go from where I am, because
Yeah.
we're kind of, I think, different from most of this guy's situations here, where it's it sounds like typically the woman's the one that's saying she wants to leave and is done with it, and the guy is like, oh my God, what do I do? It's kind of, for us, it's kind of the other way around. I'm just like, I don't know. There's no good feelings left, I guess.
Well, hey, can I ask some more questions about it, Robert? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Well, thanks for being so open and courageous here with us. Like, I applaud you. Absolutely. And I can tell that you have a big heart, and I can tell that this is, hard as it is for a lot of us a lot of the time. Right. We're all human. I've been through it too. So tell me a little bit more about, when she comes to you, when she says, I would just love for you to hold me, and you say, I don't want to do that. It's uncomfortable. I want to run the other way. Have you explored that for yourself? What is that about? What do you think? Let's start there.
I'm not sure. Usually it's, if I'm, usually she's raging about all this stuff, and I'm starting to feel like, oh, I'm a bad husband. I'm a bad person. I guess it, and for the longest time I didn't know any better, and it was like, she's making me feel that way. She's causing me all this pain, and so it makes me see her that in that light, like, she's making me feel this way. Why would I want to be anywhere near her? Why would I, like, it just feels like horrible. Like, why would I give someone a hug who feels like she's, I mean, we all have shame to some extent. I think I'm probably more so than, I don't know. I have nothing to gauge by, really, but like, I'd just shut down. I'd be frozen. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't move. It would just be like, get me out of here. There's just no desire to or no ability to see what she's saying and empathize, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Yeah. And it wasn't like that from the beginning, I'm assuming, when the two of you first got together. Yeah.
At the start of our relationship, it went really quick, and we got married really quick. And then she tells me, just after we got married, it was like a switch flipped, and I just, suddenly was not interested. And I was in university, 1 year of university left, so I kind of just continued on doing things the way I had.
Okay. And by the way, I'm going to ask some questions that to get underneath the surface here, and I'm totally in your corner, right? I'm in
Yeah,
your
yeah.
corner. So what do you think it was? Again, what's your hunch that once you got married, you what prioritized other things differently than you did before you got married?
Yeah, it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing, right? It's like, did I start being distant, or did she freak out at me first? Or
Right.
she blames it all. She says it's all on me. It's like she's hurt, she's traumatized, she's whatever, all because of me, right? Because I just dropped the ball, and like she thought, oh, the start of the things, how that's how it's always gonna go, and it didn't. So then she was like worried that I didn't love her and I didn't want to be with her anymore. So just that's her side of it. And I'm kind of like, well, I didn't actually mean to make you feel that way. It was, you know, I
Yeah.
had things I had to do or wanted to do, and then it was all of a sudden like I can't do any of this stuff without her freaking out.
Yeah, let me tell a quick story, Robert, and you tell me if you can relate to this. I've had different jobs throughout, especially my 20s, right? A long time ago when I worked 2 or 3 jobs at a time just to kind of make enough money between transitioning with things. And one of the jobs I had was this it was scooping this, they were called raw, I can't make this up. They're called raw balls because they're not cooked. So they're these balls of uncooked, hoity-toity Boulder, Colorado tree hugger stuff, I guess. They're super expensive. So I would it was a production line, right? So I'd scoop
Yeah.
these raw balls, no shit. And then I go sell raw balls. And one day, another one of the employees came up and started asking me questions and basically blaming me for things that they didn't do for their job. Right. Hey, why wasn't this done? Why wasn't that done? And that wasn't my responsibility. That was their responsibility.
Yeah.
As they kept asking me questions, I got more and more frustrated, where I got to the point where I was infuriated that they would insinuate that this was my responsibility when it blatantly was not. Yeah. And so I got to the point and I said, I just like basically kind of blew up. It's like, stop asking me these questions. This is your responsibility. Well, I got fired the next day. Okay. And it wasn't because I was wrong. It was because I wasn't able to handle the conflict within me. I
Right.
wasn't able to handle them putting responsibility, let's say, like projecting their shame and responsibility onto me to the point where I just like, it was like a volcano inside of me. Right.
Yeah.
I was fine getting fired from that job. It didn't feel good. I mean, I had 2 others. So I was like, fuck it. But looking back on that, I've looked back on that many times, and that it was just it was like vomit almost. Like I was becoming sick to the point where the person was just accusing me, where I didn't know what else to do, basically, then just tell them to fucking back off. Like, it's your problem. Leave me alone, back off. And that's what this is reminding me of with you. And I've been there with a woman too, where it's like, it's like they're pouring vitriol down our throat. Like they just have the funnel shoved in our mouth and that, like, we just have to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want for you is, number one, that you never feel like someone's shoving a funnel in your throat. I don't want anyone to ever have that feeling, of course. And what you can do is take the funnel out of your mouth and just let it dump onto the floor in front of you, basically, metaphorically. And so
Yeah.
and how to do this is to make sense of the pain that's going on in your body. So let's just do this a little bit. I'll give you some homework, and then
Sure.
you and I could talk again another time if you like, and we can take it from there. Right. So what does it remind you of when she's, my words, shoving vitriol down your throat, shoving the funnel in your throat? Does that remind you of some other time in your life? Does it remind you of, dad forced me to do this job I didn't want to do? Or when I was young in my life, I took so much responsibility and I overdid it, where I felt like I was being used in a certain way? Or what does that remind you of otherwise? When else have you felt like?
Yeah. I don't have a lot of memories of childhood. I don't really have a specific one that where that could have started. I know my dad was like very critical and kind of cold and distant a lot of the time. And I think my mom probably used me for her, to, for her emotional well-being. at least some of the time, because you know she wasn't getting anything from him, so I was the oldest. Um, so there's definitely that dynamic where I would have felt like, you know, everything was my responsibility, and like, you know, in order to be to have people think well of me, or for me to be a good person, you know, I had to take all this stuff on and make everyone happy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely got that at some point. I don't know specifically. It was probably just over time, you know, the way things were.
Sure. And we all have our
Uh,
stuff, right? I've done my I've done my healing around the story that I have about my father. Right? My father was born in 1943 outside of Savannah, Georgia. Super, super poor. He was the only one working to put food on the table when he was 19, and there was, 6 of them. His dad had passed away.
yeah,
Like, my father would give you the shirt off his back, but like, you better have a job and show up to work, otherwise what are you doing? That was kind of like, that was my message when I was young too. So for instance, telling him I got fired from that job wasn't, I didn't need to tell him that, but it's something that came up. And even doesn't matter how many other jobs I had or that I was paying my own bills, it's like, oh man, I was the worst person in the world for 5 minutes because I got fired from my job in
yeah.
my dad's eyes. So making sense of those things. Have you made sense of that? Like, do you realize that I have compassion for your parents? They were probably doing the best that they could, but it wasn't your responsibility to do that for them.
Yeah, no, I've definitely, it definitely makes sense to me now, and realize that was kind of imposed on me, and not, you know, it's not real like that, you know. I have value as I am, and not because I, you know, made my mom happy or did things the way my dad wanted me to, or whatever. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, it still gets to me sometimes, but like I see it, whereas, you know, there was a time where you know, I had no idea, like that's just the way things were, right?
totally. And I'm sure you had great times, hopefully, as a child too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure. It wasn't all like,
Yeah.
you know, the memories that I do have are mostly good memories, but you know.
So you just said a minute ago that I still have value, even though, even if my parents are upset, or even if I don't take responsibility off of their plate, I'm still a good person. Would you say?
Yeah, yeah, I can, you know, I can logically believe that, I guess, but you know, deep down, sometimes it still comes back to, you know, where, you know, if I the biggest thing for me right now that gets me down is just like, you know, if I did decide to leave my marriage, you know, then that just proves all that stuff, right? That, you know, that I'm just good for nothing, and you know, not a good husband, I'm not a good person. Like if I was to leave, that would prove it, and
According
so
to
there's
who?
still there's two. I don't know. I guess I assume how other people would feel about me if I did that, and how I would feel about myself. So that's kind of the last thing in my way. That's just like trying to let go of that, right? Like, if I know logically what the truth is, but
Yeah, let me
it's
give
still
you.
there.
I hear you, and I appreciate you saying that, Robert. Let me give you a little bit of insight. So, how I'm gonna feel if and when I make a decision about my relationship, valid. Like, that's a valid topic. But there's a truckload that you want to move through and heal before you answer that question, or you try to answer that question.
Yeah, for sure.
And the first piece that I'm seeing is, you said some things like, well, I logically believe that I still have value as a person, even though XYZ with my parents. How much do you believe it in your heart with your parents? How much do you believe it in your heart that you're still a valuable person, regardless of whether mom or dad are happy with me?
I don't know, like 70% maybe, to put a number on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's most of the time it's kind of just different times, right? Like some days I feel good, other days my wife will throw stuff at me, or you know, I think about stuff too much, and then it kind of a
Sure.
downward spiral, right?
Sure. Let me rephrase the question. Right the second, it's not about your wife. Right the second, it's about thinking about your folks, your parents. your mom and your dad and your relationship with them, like taking on responsibility from them. But how much do you believe in your heart that you have value regardless of that with your folks? Because this is all related. And I'm not here to say, okay, dig through your childhood, but it's a recognition of when have I felt this before? Because it's worse, the feeling of wanting to run away from your wife, the feeling like she's blaming you, that it's worse, fueled by how you feel about that same feeling from before, from parents, from other partners, from something you cared deeply about. Like you felt it was your job to make your mom and dad happy. And if you feel it's your job to make your wife happy, that's going to go rough places. That's what you're describing to me where you are. So the first order of business is helping you to feel good within your own self first, regardless of anything else.
Yeah.
That's the first order of business. So do me a favor, do a little homework and write for about 5 or 10 minutes about your feelings of self-worth, no matter what anyone else says. Okay, that's the beginning. If you and I were working one-on-one, that's the first homework that I would give you. We would dive into that first in the first, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks. I call it fathering yourself. And fathering yourself really only most guys, it takes about 30 days to work through fathering yourself, to really feel more centered within yourself, confident, even though she's still throwing things in your face. So start there. And I'm going to get into some more here very quickly about like specifically what to do in a certain situation. But, you know, Robert, as you might expect, most of this is deep. So that would be the first phase.
It goes a lot deeper than I thought. It's like you keep chipping away at it.
Yeah.
It keeps going,
Jeff,
right?
is this like
hold
talking
on,
along
Larry.
fathering?
Hold on, Larry.
Okay.
Hold on. So Robert, that's absolutely right. Is it feels like a chipping away, and you're doing the right thing being here with us. Cool. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Yeah, Larry, go for it.
My question was, is this parenting the wounded little boy, parenting your inner child? Is that what you're talking about with him, that takes men 30 days or most men 30 days to recover and be able to solve?
Yeah, with me, I call it fathering yourself.
Okay.
And that's right. And it usually takes men about 30 days to feel incredibly confident within their own selves. From what, like, I just met Robert, right? But if I had 30 days with him, if I had 3 or 4 calls with him and did homework along the way, and he was diligent about doing these 5 or 10 minutes of fathering himself, like I've given him assignment, then yes, it's how do we heal our relationship with our responsibility, like our own shame, our own feeling of worthiness. That's where all of this has to begin. At least it's got to be in there somewhere, guys, right? It's never about, if she just started giving you blowjobs tomorrow, like that wouldn't fix everything. It'd be awesome, but it wouldn't fix everything. You know?
So do you have, when somebody works with you, a set like schedule or assignment that you go through to help somebody work their way through that?
So yes, but I modify it, right?
Sure.
Like I'll give you another 30 seconds, and Robert can use this, and Larry, you can use this. So imagine that a younger version of you is sitting in a chair next to you. There's an empty chair next to you, and you turn to the empty chair and you pretend the 9-year-old version of you, or the 15-year-old version of you, or the 23-year-old version of you, wherever you feel like, wow, I really internalized my parents' shame when I was 9 years old or around there. And you talk to the 9-year-old version of yourself. You ask him, how is he? You ask him to tell you about how he's feeling. How is he doing? And you just start a conversation. This is the first assignment I would give. You start a conversation with that version of yourself, and you just see what he will say to you. Maybe he's quiet. Maybe he doesn't talk with you at all. Maybe he says, you know, mom and dad think I'm a bad person. Maybe he doesn't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. And you don't try to fix anything. You don't try to like tell him everything is going to be okay when he grows up. You just empathize with him. Okay. Just empathize, and you say, thank you for talking with me, even if he really says nothing to you. And you do that for 5 or 10 minutes. And often I'll tell guys to do this once a week, twice a week. Okay. And the first couple of times, not much usually happens. But after that, he, 9-year-old version of you, will start telling you, yeah, I feel bad at school and no one loves me. These kind of things will still come out, but it's not about fixing or trying to directly heal him. It's about, he feels that he has an audience with you, that you care, that you see that pain that we all have most likely shoved down for a long time. We've suppressed or repressed these things. And all he wants is to be heard most of the time. So I would go through a process with that. Yes. Yeah.
Sure.
How's that
So
come across?
those are the,
Yeah.
my comment is because we do have that unparented or wounded inner child, that's why we're reactive, defensive. When she tries to blow up our shit and we respond, we react badly instead of being responsive.
Well, that little boy
right?
takes the wheel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You're getting the 9-year-old temper tantrum.
Yeah. Like I can't, with our adult body, with our adult.
Mhm.
So usually that means like we tell someone to fuck off or we walk away, where we couldn't do that when we were 9. So it feels better to Robert, for instance, or anyone. It feels better to us to just shut it out and walk away, because that's actually freedom compared to when we had to just take it when we were young, let's say. So we adapted by getting out of there. We adapted by saying, it's not my, I have nothing to do with this. Let me get the hell out of here. It feels better than just like the funnel shoved in our throat. But where I want to get is that part of us, we can tame that part of ourselves, which is a whole process. Yeah. And then we know how to handle the situation better than we did in the past. And that's what I'm going to teach you here in a couple minutes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good questions, Larry. So as always, guys, if we run out of time on the call, you can certainly reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer questions in the forum or over email, or if you want to talk about, working one-on-one together, we can talk about that. Still, raise your hand, go to what's the button? The reactions button in Zoom, and raise your hand if you want to come in or if you have other questions. Absolutely. So I'll step forward here. So what is a highly sensitive person? This is from the clevelandclinic.org, psychologist Dr. Childs. When you're deeply sensitive to certain physical, emotional, or social situations, right? What is a highly sensitive person? If you're a highly sensitive person, you have a heightened awareness of the stimuli around you, which can be good or bad. Highly sensitive people tend to be bothered by violence and can easily be overwhelmed, which leads them to avoid certain situations. Highly sensitive people can also be very creative and have a deep level of empathy. Dr. Child says, highly sensitive people are built more deeply emotionally and mentally. So built more deeply is a relative word, right? Emotionally and mentally than most people. It's more than their emotions. It can also be sensitivity to textures and sounds. You guys talked about this earlier. Textures and sounds. You might not like big crowds or bright lights. And while we all tend to have sensitivities, with a highly sensitive person, they tend to experience the sensitivities on a higher level. Here's some traits. They avoid violent TV shows. They find beauty in almost anything, whether it's art or something in nature. Feeling overwhelmed by noises, bright lights, and uncomfortable clothes. Feeling anxious more than you would expect. Feeling the need for downtime I see this as a lot of closing off. Like just going into the phone, playing Candy Crush, getting on social media, watching a soap opera, something like this, where to us, it seems like avoidance often. And then this having a rich inner life. Well, having a rich inner life, if they understand themselves, if they know how to handle these things and regulate their own selves. And so there's some links there that I'll show you in a second. But the 3 phases that what we go through as a man, okay, are to number 1, stop doing unattractive things, pull back the curtain, know where we're messing up. Number 2, to grow our understanding and our ability to be an attractive man, a high value grounded man, to have the skills. Like, for instance, I'm going to show you here in a second. And then the phase 3 in coaching is to ask for what you want in relationship. But you have to stop messing up. You have to grow your skills first before asking for what you want. So men will often come to the forum right away and they'll like, oh, such and such is happening. How do I uphold boundaries? How do I tell her not to do that? How do I fix things? Well, inviting her into 2.0, inviting her into the next level of relationship is the 3rd phase of this work. So that's why often we have to slow guys down. Okay, what's going on inside you? How are we stepping on our own toes, shooting ourselves in the foot? Okay, what can we shift quickly? So let's talk about that now. So what does highly sensitive look like? Your scenarios, let's get into the stoplight colors approach to conversation. So the stoplight colors, red, yellow, green. Yeah, and many can be happening at the same time. That's why I love this picture. It's not that it's just one thing happening at a time. Often there's a lot going on. Right, so how can we understand this? Red, yellow, green. Well, a big mistake that we make, especially with a highly sensitive woman or any woman in relationship, is we often try to talk much too logically about things. She'll bring up a feeling or a pain or point her finger at you and saying, you're not doing this or you did this to me. And we try to solve it logically with our brain. And so I call that the red light, is trying to solve things logically with our brain. Sometimes we need that when we're at work, when we're paying taxes, when we're reviewing our health insurance or car insurance, something's going on with the kiddos. Decisions need to be made at times. And that's what I call the red light, more logic. Now, the green light is what she's wanting the vast majority of the time. She's wanting praise, and she's wanting you to have an open heart. An open heart means to have compassion for her as best you can. If we don't have compassion for ourselves, it's hard to have compassion for her. So that's where the fathering yourself comes in first. That's where the stop making mistakes come in first, where we can feel proud about ourselves. We can feel confidence from the inside, mojo from the inside. That's always the first piece here. And when we feel that contentedness within ourselves, it's much easier to focus on praising her and not trying to fix it. The yellow I call breathe and empathize. This is when she brings up difficult emotions. So the green is positive, like happy things are happening. You're praising the kids, or you're praising how she does in the world. You're praising the efforts that she puts in her life. But often she's going to share something painful. So when she's sharing something painful, your main goals are to just breathe and empathize with her without trying to fix it logically, without going into this red light of a logical discussion. So the green light is a certain type of conversation. The yellow light is a completely different conversation. And the red light is yet another. So don't stack multiple conversations into one moment. So she may come with a yellow light, something painful that you did. If you try to solve it with a red light logical answer, you're stacking multiple colors, so to speak, in the same moment. You don't want to stack multiple colors in the same moment. If you're praising her and then she goes into something negative, all you do is have an open heart in that moment. Okay? That dress looks beautiful on you today. No, it looks terrible. I'm gross and ugly and fat. Okay? Don't try to switch into empathizing with her about it. Don't try to switch into the yellow light. Just allow the praise to be there. Just allow the praise to sit. Allow her rejection of it, let's say, just to be. Don't try to move into logically telling her, well, no, the dress actually looks great because of this measurement on you. And don't try to logically explain. The main goal is to keep these three colors separate. Don't stack in the same conversation. So let's pause there. What did you guys hear? What did you guys hear in the red, yellow, green? Don't stack. Separate these things with time. What did you hear there? What questions do you have there before I step forward? Come on in.
Well, I'm just gonna toss my head in the ring here. So what I
Yeah,
heard
Enrique,
is
please, man.
to kind of you need to identify what type of conversation you're having, right? And I guess that's the key thing, and then decide what the appropriate action is at that point. So you got to make a quick decision. Here's what's being asked of me, and here's what I need to provide at this point, depending on what light it is, whether it's a red light situation, a yellow light situation, or a green light situation. So you got to be able to identify that and then provide what's needed. At least that's what I'm pulling out of this.
Yeah. Do you find that's difficult for you?
Yeah, depending on the situation, right? Because sometimes, and I apologize for speaking in code, but there are many ears around me at the moment here.
Sure.
But depending on what's to your point, something can come up and it'll cover all three areas. So then deciding what action to take at what point, that's the most difficult part, right? So if, say a situation, I don't know. something happened at work, right? Say something happened at work and it's thrown at you all at once. So all the elements of this particular situation is thrown to you at once. You need to identify, well, what's being asked of me? Do I need to provide a solution? Do I need to just say, yeah, you know, I understand, and um, in your to your point, empathize, or to provide praise depending on what the situation was? I'm sorry, I'm so broad, but I'm just trying to give
No,
a
that's
broad
good. Yeah,
example.
that's good. That's a great question. So when your woman, when your intimate woman, when your partner, the only woman that you fuck, right, is talking to you, 99% of the time, it's an emotional expression. It's an emotional conversation. She's not actually asking you to do anything. So make that assumption right off the bat. When your intimate part, now it's different with friends, it's different with female coworkers, it's different than your sister. Obviously, all these things are very different than your woman coming up and sharing a similar story.
Much easier situations, by the way. I mean, with the other
Right.
three, yeah, much easier what the response is. So
Sure. Well, first of all, why do you think it's easier? What about it's easier?
you're not as invested. I mean, you are to a certain degree, say at work, you're invested, but you know what's expected of you. If it's a friend, again, you know what's expected of you.
So pause for a second. With your friend, how do you know what's expected of you?
I've known them very long. I mean, you know, most of my friends, 20, almost 30 years, and I know that I don't have to handle him with kid gloves, and if he's asking me something, well, again, he's a male, right? So I know exactly what he's thinking. Even female friends, if they were to come to me, I know exactly, they're asking for my input,
Okay. So you basically assume that a friend is asking for input.
Right.
Okay. And so if I said, all right, assume that your intimate partner, your woman, is not asking for input. Let's start there. 99% of the time, unless she says, do you want the red drapes or the blue drapes? And even then, it's probably not actually about the red or the blue.
Then again, to your point, I've done that. I've answered that question, and my opinion doesn't really matter. It's all
right. That's my point. So let's just start with the assumption. Let's flip it on its head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The way you kind of phrased the question was around, well, what do I need to do about it? What if you assume that you don't need to do anything about it? What if 99% of the time you don't need to do, and she's not asking you to do anything about it? Let's just start with that assumption. Then she comes to you, oh, such and such happened at work. Sounds like it was a negative story.
Right.
True. Okay. So which one of these three, which one of these three would this be?
I would think yellow.
Yeah, exactly. So what do? You breathe. Like breathe usually means don't talk and stop trying to fix it, bro. Breathe and empathize, and that's it. Sounds really too simple, maybe. So where does that go wrong in your mind, Enrique?
That I do the opposite. I try to fix it. Historically, 99% of the time, that's what I've tried to do. Now, more recently, I've been backing off from that, and I've been trying to do the yellow part, empathizing and understanding. But historically, 99%, I know the solution. Stand back, I got this, type of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And it didn't work out. Yeah.
Yeah. And like my girl tried to go figure out what the beeping is, and this is what she wrote. It's the carbon monoxide battery, and she can't get the face of it off, right? First of all, I want to go up and rip the fucking thing off the ceiling right now because it's been literally beeping the whole time. But so she tried to fix it. She couldn't fix it. Now, am I going to go up there and say like, oh, let me teach you how to get the cover off of the carbon monoxide thing so you don't have to make me, no, I'm not going to make that her responsibility. This is an emotional spot. She's probably, I would guess, my woman's pretty sensitive. She's probably worried that I'm going to be angry at her that she couldn't figure out the beeping for an hour and a half. Now, before I go speak with her, I'm sure as hell going to process. I'm sure as hell going to think about, what am I going to do? I'm going to praise her. I'm going to praise her for trying. I didn't even ask her to try, but I'm going to praise her for trying. I'm going to praise her for giving me the note. I'm not going to logically explain how to get the cover off the carbon monoxide battery. So that's a start. Enrique. So yeah, thank you. Did you want to add to that? Do you have another question on top of that?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for jumping in, man. Yeah. Alex, please come on in. Thanks, Enrique. That was great.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. I mean, this is
So Alex, you're super soft. I can't hear you.
okay. 1 second. Are you able? Oh, okay. 1 second. Just 1 second. 1 second. I'm just
There
trying
we
to
go. It's
connect my.
getting better now.
Just okay. Okay. I trust it's better now. Okay.
Yeah, please go for it.
So, I mean, this is obviously a big aha moment, because I think all of us in conversation, especially with disgruntled wife, when we are in separation or divorce, you know, doesn't really go well. And one of the mistakes that I think sometimes we tend to make as men is to agree to what she says. And this is obviously not going to go well. So to me, understanding where she is emotionally and then responding based on these 3 colors is like something that I'm for sure going to try. But the question is in here, those things apply pretty much to us based on how she behaves. I mean, is this how I should be taking this, Jeff?
Can you rephrase your question in a different way? You're confused as to maybe which light to use in a certain situation.
No,
or...
I think the lights are great. So and I wrote those down. So whenever she's actually feeling good about herself, we praise. Whenever she's venting about a situation, we try to breathe and empathize. And what is that logical discussion? Does it come in at what point?
That's a great question. I believe you also said you try to empathize, but then she's pushes you for more?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you try to empathize. Like, for example, when I say I understand or this must be tough, sometimes it comes to me like you understand or you agree. And then I'm realizing at that point that I have to somehow back off. So it's obviously because of the tension that has been accumulated, during the time. So this is really the challenge. So logical discussion comes in at what point? Because the praise comes naturally when I see that she's in good mood and I can do something relatively neutral. That's how I see it. Then the breathe and empathize comes in when she's actually emotional and wants to vent. So when is the logical discussion? At what point should we initiate, or is this logical discussion more like a business matter conversation? Because in the end, you wanna put some bricks in there. You wanna break some walls with a highly sensitive women.
Yeah. By the way, don't ever say to a highly sensitive woman that you want to break some walls. So you want to knock down some of her brick walls. Half of a joke, but so Alex, okay, great question. So when do you bring up something logical that needs to be discussed? Okay, you do not bring it up at the same time, so you don't stack. And I teach what I call the 24/7 rule. So you wait longer than 24 hours, but you bring it up within 7 days. So more than 24 hours, but less than 7 days, if you still feel it needs to be talked about. So let's say she totals the car. She has a car crash and she totals the car. And the next day she comes to you crying and hysterical about the car. And what is she going to do about it? And she can't, get to work, and the kids, we need to have a second car. Okay. That's yellow light. That's her wanting to feel like you understand and that you care and that you're there for her. And she wants to feel the resonance with you in her body. She's not necessarily wanting you to tell her everything's going to be okay. I'll fix it. I bought another car already. That's not what she's wanting right away. So to answer your question bluntly, is longer than 24 hours later and within 7 days, if you feel it still needs to be talked about. So this gives you time to post on the forum or, email your coach or journal or pray about this, to process it yourself, to go work out, to walk outside, to, sleep on it for at least 24 hours before you go back and have a logical discussion about something.
Okay, this sounds great. I'll take this advice. And I think one of the very powerful things that you mentioned was that, yes, we have these three colors, and obviously we need to be mindful of them, but the key thing is don't stack them. So don't jump from one thing to another right away, because this is potentially, you know, not gonna go well. And so this is on us not to jump, but if the person, the spouse jumps, then we have to align, correct?
Well, that is an excellent question. That's an excellent question. So let's say the car crash, she's, you know, hysterical about the car, about the children and everything. And it's just this illogical emotional experience for her, right? So you empathize, baby, that must have been so scary, obviously, right? So over and over, you're empathizing, you're hugging her if she wants to be held. And then let's say she pushes away and says, well, what are you going to do about the car? Right? Or what are you going to do about this? How are you going to fix this? It's like another wave. It's another bridge to cross. Okay. Don't fall for the trap. Okay. It's a trap. Don't fall for the trap. Don't answer. Don't switch the colors of the light in the same situation. So you say, that's an excellent question. I've been researching it. Let's talk about it again tomorrow. Like push it off. Let's talk about it again tomorrow. I'm going to take care of everything tomorrow. I'll take care of the kids. I'm going to take care of everything. At tomorrow night, after we have dinner, we're going to sit and have a glass of wine, and we'll talk about it. And I'll tell you what the options are. So you push it off. Okay. Tell her, I've been thinking about it. Let's talk about it again at this specific time. Like set up a date for a specific time. That's what I suggest in almost any of these situations, whether it's completely batshit crazy or it's actually something that needs to be decided. Push off if she's trying to get more.
Okay. No, this is an excellent advice, and I'm just reflecting now on an experience that I had just a few days ago. So my wife, just to give some context, my wife at this point, you know, wants to take the kids and move to a different state, which is something it's a non-negotiable for me. And that is the state where her parents live. And a couple of days ago, she was very emotional in the morning that she talked to her mother, and her mother was upset that we are going there and staying just for a few days. And I was obviously trying to empathize with her. But then all of a sudden she starts crying and says, yes, it's because of you that I cannot really go and be with them all the time out there, and you're just blocking me from moving and all of this. So obviously this wasn't going down to the right path, and from somebody venting, it became all of a sudden accusatory. So I engaged probably in a 2-minute conversation that actually was not going anywhere. I wasn't mad, but then after I realized that, you know, let's talk about it some other time. I can really discuss. And I just left, and I realized this is what I should have done probably without those 2 minutes. Because as you said, you know, we stacked two things on top of each other, and this is a recipe for disaster, especially when we are dealing with someone highly emotional and highly sensitive.
That's exactly right. Have you tried, Alex, if something like that comes up, if you say, come here, like, come here, baby, give me a hug. Will she do that?
No, I mean, at this point, unfortunately, no. So that's, you know, something that I have to rebuild and obviously focus on myself first before we get again to that point. So
yeah,
unfortunately, not there yet. So
sure. So I'm just curious where you are. So otherwise, could you put your hand on her hand and say, that sounds really hard?
Not yet. So it's unfortunately from her end, it's a total disconnect. So I have to empathize, but in a way that's cautious and it's respectful to the distance that she wants to have at this point.
Does that mean no touching? Is that what that means, Alex?
Yes.
Okay. But otherwise,
unless she does it, which is rare, and it hasn't happened in a while. So
yeah. So that sounds really hard, right? And actually empathizing. You can't think what a bitch in your mind and say that sounds really hard. You actually have to have empathy for it. Like, do you have kids, Alex?
Yeah, I have two actually. Yeah, 2 kids, 2 small kids. Yeah.
Nice. Boy or girls?
One boy, one girl, 7 and 4. So
7
yeah.
and 4. So when my son's 19 now, which is crazy to say. So when one of your kiddos comes up and says, Daddy, I want candy. Daddy, I want candy. And you say, no, not right now. And they say, Daddy, I hate you. You're the worst daddy ever. Unless you give me candy, I'm going to hate you. What might you say?
Oh, this happens sometimes, especially with my 4-year-old daughter, and she still had some outbursts. And most important thing is to say at this time you don't get candy, and that's pretty much it. We may get it at some other time. So that's what I've been trying to do, pretty much redirect. And I also say sometimes you need to trust daddy as well, because I'm always gonna love you and look after you. I don't know. This is my approach. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But what I've realized through my parenting experience, which is probably not optimal, but learning all the time, is that giving into a child just for the comfort of that present moment, doesn't yield good things in the future. So it's making sure that the parent is in charge, not the child is in charge. And the child always, what I've seen is that, if daddy says something, they go to mommy. If mommy says one thing, they go to daddy.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's a
are
different thing. Like triangulate
those are the types of like little authority things that we need to express. But yeah, this is a different topic. Learning all the time.
I'll make my quick point there, and then I want to jump over to Carl, who's been patient with his hand. My quick point there is your little girl, when she says, I hate you, daddy, that's a yellow light. She's sharing a painful emotion with you. It's not a logical situation that needs to be answered. You're not praising her in that exact moment. And so what I would suggest is, you're right that the parent is in charge, but you don't need to do anything. You don't need to try to convince your child that you're in charge. You just are in charge. Like, they're not getting candy. That's but how you deal with it is what we're talking about. And this is very similar to fathering yourself. It's very similar to dealing with a highly sensitive woman. So, Daddy, I hate you. I can't have candy. Sounds like you're sad right now that you can't have candy. And
so it's the acknowledgement and the empathy. So this thing works with kids as it works with anybody else.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't matter what she does or what she says. She's not getting candy. You know that. So really, it's how do I handle this? Like, oh, that sounds like you're sad. It sounds like you're sad right now. Acknowledging those core emotions, like the sad, helps us not to pile other stuff on top. Anger is always piled on top of sadness, disappointment, fear. Yeah. And so we're teaching our child in that way. And I had to learn this stuff the hard way, Alex. So we're teaching our child in that way that their emotions matter, but she's still not getting candy. So something to think about with your wife too. What are you going to do about it? It sounds like you're really upset right now. It doesn't mean I have to do anything about it. Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Alex. Really
Thank
good.
you so much.
Yeah, Carl, come on in, please. Thanks, Alex.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go for it.
All right, very good. It's been a few moments of trying to reconstruct my question.
Sure.
Talking about she wrecked the car or something, something's damaged with the car. She's upset. And then your scenario was all right, now what are you going to do about it? And he said, well, hey, we can, I think you suggested, well, let's talk about it tomorrow. I don't know if I got that right.
Right. Yeah.
When it comes to cars or something that belongs in the man's sphere, shall we say?
Okay.
Things that are up high on the cabinet that she can't reach.
Yeah.
Doing something that requires a wrench or a screwdriver, anything like that.
Yeah.
Would it not, instead of like, hey, okay, let's talk about it tomorrow, to just take charge? So, okay, you had this accident, these things happen. I would think, give her the comfort and understanding that everything's going to be okay. And now you don't have to worry about it. I'll take care of it. I'll get it fixed. All right.
Sure.
And then take the focus to some, maybe what do you want to do for this afternoon? Get her mind off, the thoughts off of the broken car. I've taken care of it. Now let's focus on something you want to do. That I don't know. Wouldn't that, if it's something like, I got there's a stain on the sofa. Well, that's kind of maybe in her sphere. I don't know how to clean that. What do you need? How can I support yourself? But when it comes to the cars, don't worry about it. These things happen. I'm taking charge of it. It'll get taken care of. Now let's put our focus on something else. I don't know. Would that have not been either another solution or even a better way to approach that?
Sure. And if I'm understanding you, Carl, you're kind of adding a cherry on top. It's like I'm handling it. You empathize about the car. I'm handling it, and then you're trying to redirect her.
Right. Which
is usually done with kids. Alex was even talking about that, redirecting her. What I would say is yes, but so this is a little bit different topic, but let's talk about it for a minute. So the cherry on top would be move her in space. Guys, when a woman or a child is upset, empathize and then see if you can lead them to just physically a different location in the house, outside, a different room. Okay. So Carl, that's what I would do. So let's go for a walk together, or, hey, come here, look at the beautiful sunset out the window, or look at the birds that are in the trees. The goal being not to try to talk her into a different frame of mind necessarily, but moving her to a different space so she can physically move her body, walk or move, which there's science behind that. And then there's different stimulus, to your point. But it sounds like there may be a different question underneath there too. So let's say she goes, hey, Carl, there's a big stain on the couch. I've told you a million times not to have coffee on the couch. What are you going to do about it? Okay. So she's pissed and saying, what are you going to do about it? And it's the couch now. So I don't know if it's her. I don't know. We'd be like, well, lady, that's your domain. No, I'm joking. You wouldn't say that. Okay. But let's make it harder. So she's mad and about the couch. She's mad and says, what are you going to do about it? With what we've talked about today, how would you handle it?
Probably just leave that up there for a second. Got it. Well, if I was in the right frame of mind, I would agree with her. Yeah, you're right. I wasn't thinking, or I was just selfish. Sorry about the mess. Now, how do I clean this up? What do I do? What do you usually use? But that would, I don't know if that'd be the right way, but
so the first part, you did the yellow light, right? You did good. She's upset. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you well, how do I fix it? What do you use to fix this is logical. Or, hey, mommy, help me clean it. Hey, mommy, I don't know what to do. Hey, mommy, I can't fucking figure this out myself. Tell me what to do. So I wouldn't say that part.
Yeah, because she would actually oh, don't worry about it. I can do it quicker myself. Is what she would say.
Well, she sounds like a fun woman. So first of all, I would say, yeah, you're right. I messed up. I didn't think about it. You're totally right. I messed up. I'll look into it. I'll fix it. That's what I would say.
Okay.
And then, but I'm not going to ask her how to fix it. I'm not going to ask her what she uses to clean it. I'm going to figure it out.
Even better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And let's say it's not that, I use the wrong thing and it ruins the couch. I'll figure it out.
Find a new couch.
It may not be a new couch, and maybe I flip the damn cushion over, but I'll figure it out. Yeah. So do you have a habit of asking her how to fix things or where things are? Because that's insidious.
Oh God. Yeah.
It's really insidious. Yeah.
Where is this and where is that?
Oh God.
That was a thing with her dad of, well, not where it is, but he needs the salt, and he could get it, but he would just say to his wife, I need salt with this, and she would get up and go, and that would infuriate my wife. So, but the thing is I early in our marriage, I remember one time we're sitting across from each other, and I just thought, I can get her to get up from the table. And what I did, I just shifted like this, and she started getting up to go get something for me. I'm like, I don't believe this.
Wow.
Just, so she's been programmed to serve like that. And I mean, she enjoys it, but then she really wants other people, do it yourself, but then she won't stop herself from serving.
Yeah, that's really well said. So she feels like she has to do it, and that's not going to make a woman feel, intimate and connected. I teach, I would rather almost go buy a second thing if I can't, if you can't find something, wear yourself out. Look for it for at least an hour before you ask your woman where the hell it is, because you're putting her in mother mode. I'm speaking to myself, I'm speaking to every man here. You're putting her in mothering mode when you ask her where something is. Yeah. So man, use that sparingly for sure. Yeah. So Carl, where are the two of you right now? I want to catch up on you if I can. You got your own place, right? Your own apartment. She can either join you there or not down the road. Where are the two of you now?
It's kind of interesting because she just returned Wednesday from her trip to Switzerland. That's with my son and the 4 grandkids. And so I had moved out like the day before they all got back. But during the week, I said, oh yeah, I've got myself an apartment. And she was like, what? Yeah, talked about this. And she said, well, I thought you were just joking about that. No. So I even told my son, and now, he's looking to the detached garage, which he wanted to make into an apartment for my wife and I. And so he's got to do some construction with sewage and water. I said, I'm not a part of that. You do it. I don't, because I started, well, you've got this issue and that issue, and I don't see it happening. And I said, well, I want to get a contractor. Fine. You do it. I don't ask an opinion of me on it. I'm moved on. Anyways, so I'm in here and I'm enjoying peace and quiet, no grandkids, no pets. I don't wake up getting cat hair out of my mouth. But like we're talking last night, and haven't talked to her yet this morning, but I was going to go over there and pick up some more things. And we talked last night about she's going to go to Chicago, where our daughter is, with my son. They're going to drive back my daughter's car, so my wife would have a car. That happens in about 2 weeks. Then sometime in September, she's going to go to Washington, D.C., where our other son is, and house sit for about 3 weeks. And so she just decides to do these things, which, okay. But we've also talked after Thanksgiving to go together to go to Switzerland for about 6 or 7 weeks.
Wow.
So found some tickets, and talking to her yesterday, said, here are the prices. We kind of talked about what would be the good thing. So we'll buy them next week or so, and I'll just buy them, not even tell her. Just do it. I've got all the input that I need. I don't know. When she came back, I almost felt awkward being around her.
How so?
I don't know. It's almost like I don't know how she feels. And I don't know. I don't know if this is maybe the closest thing would be, that was a long time ago, having a girlfriend, going great, and then you break up, and then it's like you meet again,
Okay.
Oh, what do we do?
You flirt. That's what you do. Depends on if you're with another girl yet.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. I just feel a little bit awkward. What I want to do is, have a time to where, hey, let's go out to dinner or something like that. Kind of make a date night or start dating.
I mean, what if I just, so that's a good point. And if I may, Carl, I'll jump into that.
Yeah.
This is what all of us have kind of programmed to think. This is me back in the day too. Well, all right, maybe I'll ask her for dinner and like start dating again. It's like, whoa. It's like, that's like stepping up to the plate and trying to swing for the fence. Like, you don't need to do that. And that's intimidating for her, and she's not going to know what your intentions are, and oh god, what dinner, where are we going to go sit, and all this time, and I have to schedule it, and what about the rest of my life? What if you just said, hey, come outside with me in the backyard, and you went and stood and you looked at the gorgeous clouds in the sky, and she was standing beside you, not knowing what the hell's going on, like what's going on? And you said, look at how amazing these clouds are right now, and you stood there with her for a few minutes. That's a date. That's a 2-minute date that you didn't have to plan or prep or scare her away or anything like that.
Okay. Just that the apartment that I'm in now is 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
So
do you plan on being back at the house at any time or no?
Today, go pick up some things.
Okay. So what's your point of it being 20 minutes away then?
Well, I just can't. Hey, you want to get in the backyard?
You're going to be over there.
Yeah, but like right now, like it was like, oh, can you do something the next 5 minutes with her? So no.
Oh, well, I didn't literally mean right this second.
Okay.
Well, like when let me ask, you have an opportunity, you're around her at various points throughout each week, I would assume. Is this true?
Well, she just came back. So I don't know. Once I get all the items I need, I'm not even sure, what's the point of going back to the house?
Okay, I understand where you're going here. My point is trying to plan dinner when you're already feeling ambiguous and the two of you are separated sounds like a big ask. It sounds like you're trying to swing for a home run, so to speak. It sounds like a lot of pressure for her or both of you. But if you randomly see her, if you happen to see her, which I'm sure that you will at some point, I would bet, unless you just don't want to see her anymore, that's a different thing. But when you happen to see her and you're this ambiguous feeling about yourself, you don't need to plan this huge pressure date. Go for a walk with her, stand in the backyard for 5 minutes, talk about the birdhouse that fell down in the backyard, and just have fun with the engagement. That will help you discover more of what you're searching for, I think, much more quickly and much more easily and efficiently than trying to ask her on a date, which she's most likely just going to say no to.
More spontaneous, whatever. God, I can't say the word.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. We try to play chess with everything, guys. This isn't 3D chess. It's like, simplify it. Play checkers. Okay, I'm looking down at the checkerboard. What am I going to do? Well, I can move this piece 1 space or this piece 1 space. That's what I want you to think. Play checkers.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. If she's thinking, holy shit, he's asking me to play 3D chess, like date and plan the date and where are we going to go and all that, she's going to say no.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Good stuff. Appreciate it. By the way, your energy seems like super solid. You feel like deep and love the man that you're being and the path that you're on and the decisions that you're making, the place for yourself, just booking the trip if you got enough information. You seem like a completely different man than when I first met you.
I don't know if you were, I think it was a conversation, a call with you. I couldn't talk because of the emotions. I had to type it in just to keep from breaking down.
Yeah.
So even now I'm getting a little bit misty on that, just thinking about it, but I can get through it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff, Carl, for sure, man. I'm proud of you. Love it. Awesome. Thanks for being here. All right, guys, I'll show you a couple more screens, a couple more slides, and we'll wrap it up today. That was great, Carl. Appreciate it. So logical discussion, right? If she feels like this is you, where the bottom green light never lights up and the yellow light never lights up, and all you do is just try to, I found this with a picture of like a man in the red light. If all she feels you do is mansplain, I hate that word, try to fix it logically, she's going to think you don't listen, you don't care about me. If the red light is the only light that ever lights up, she might think, you know, he's got his shit together, but he doesn't care about me. He knows how to get along in the world, but he doesn't listen to me. I'm not special to him. So you got to play in the green light, play in the yellow light, and only one at a time. All right, guys. Okay, guys ask me how to learn more about this or get in touch with me. Here's some links. I'm going to put them in the chat here too as well. And the first one there is all of the Good Guys to Great Men coaches. So if you want to just put your name in the pool, so to speak, and you get randomly chosen for a different coach. If you want to check out my website, greatmenmovemountains.com, got a free 45-minute audiobook. There's my email address as well. And if you want to be a part of our free private Facebook group, if you're not there yet, greatmenmovemountains.com/Facebook. Okay. I'll see you guys in the forums. I wasn't able to read the chat at the same time. I saw Doug and Steve message me directly. I'll read those after I hang up here today. But if you want to reach out to me again, email or go into the forum, and I'm happy to answer your questions. So I'll look at what you said, Doug and Steve, but meet me in the forum or reach out to me directly, guys. Right? Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Larry, Carl, Enrique, Jeff. Good to see you. Robert, everybody else that was here. See you guys next time. Ciao, guys.